So I was asked a very fascinating question, and it was something I haven't touched on too much, right? So the topic I'm going to talk about right now is masculine dominance with feminine dominance. So that's basically a leader with a no-limit soldier. Now, masculine dominance sets expectations. They follow through on the expectations, and they don't have to use duplicity in order to get their way. So their dominance is a little bit more natural than feminine dominance. Now, one thing to understand is that a masculine dominant will sexually disintegrate into either, right, a masculine submissive or a feminine dominant. Right? So this is one way that relationships can turn toxic, and it's one way that relationships can turn stagnant. Masculine submissive can create stagnancy. Right? So, let's say there's a masculine dominant man with a feminine dominant woman. The masculine dominant man says what he's on. The feminine dominant may be more so like a brat, right? Or she may be a woman who is used to being the primary giver of pleasure. So oftentimes a feminine dominant woman is a woman who's used to sometimes behaving in a dual way, in a duplicitous way, right? To where there are some men who she may take more of a masculine submissive role with, other men she'll take a feminine dominant role with. That's the gentleman gigolo complex. So sometimes a feminine dominant will meet a man who's masculine and dominant. If that man's more dominant than she is, then that'll push her into her submissiveness. Then she'll become feminine and submissive. That's like getting fucked into her feelings, right? Now, if the masculine dominant doesn't properly set the expectations, or if he gets too emotionally invested too soon, then she will see him as feminine and dominant, and his feminine dominance will be what causes her to be emotionally engaged into the situation to a certain extent, but she will also use that to disregard and to discredit his leadership. So sometimes when a feminine dominant deals with the masculine dominant, either that man will be dominated by the feminine dominant, which often may not happen, but if it does happen, then what will happen in this particular instance is that if she dominates him, a feminine dominant with a masculine dominant, then he will become a masculine submissive. So then he would get someone on her program, but in a masculine way. And then from that place, then she will be on her, her feminine dominance. So she'll be playing games with him. She'll be the primary giver of pleasure, primary receiver of control. Oftentimes, what feminine dominant women will do is they'll use dishonesty. They'll use lies. Oftentimes, these turn out to be narcissistic women. So they will pretend to be on the program of the masculine dominant man up front. They'll pretend to be down with whatever he's down for, but then they'll switch up. So a feminine dominant can look like your masculine dominant, as in you're a leader. You set your program. You say what you're down for. She says she's down for exactly whatever it is that you're down for. Right? Now, one thing that can happen is sometimes a masculine dominant will listen to what she says instead of what she does. And if he listens to what she says instead of what she does, and then he gets attached to the idea of what she's providing, right? Then that masculine dominant man may start to revert into a feminine dominant man to an extent, and then start playing the game with her instead of walking away. The feminine dominant will be attracted to the challenge of that masculinity. And she may enjoy that opportunity to be in her submissive energy. But in order to be in her submissive energy, she's going to have to cut her emotions off to do it. So when she has to cut her emotions off to do it, that's what a no-limit soldier is. Then that's when she'll go into a place where she's masculine submissive. So if the man is able to get her into a place where she's feminine and submissive, that may make her feel uncomfortable because the idea of losing control. This is what happens where a man gets cut off because he hit it too good, right? A man will get cut off if his dick is too good, because it puts a woman in a perspective where she wasn't expecting all the domination and the pleasure that she got. So it pushes her from her dominant energy into her submissive energy. And for a lot of women, that's going to be something that makes them feel uncomfortable, because if that's not a man who they want to be with, or a man who already told them that he wants to be with them, then if they aren't used to being feminine and submissive, then it'll create a lot of discomfort for them. Then she'll get inconsistent, because feminine dominants often work off their inconsistency to create emotional roller coasters. So if a masculine dominant doesn't walk away immediately when she starts behaving in an inconsistent way, and then put her actions over her words, then what a masculine dominant will do is start to play the game with her. And then she will play the victim afterwards. That's what feminine dominants do. Because when a woman is feminine and dominant, she is in a position to where she can start playing the victim. You know, that's where a lot of Me Too situations come from, feminine dominance. So as a masculine dominant, just because you're upfront with a woman doesn't necessarily mean that whatever it is that you're down for, that she's down for, or that she will stay down for that, or she will be consistent with what she says. That's why you got to put a woman's actions over her words and make sure that those things align. And if they don't align, it's not for you to try and get her to make them align. It's for you to walk the fuck away. And a lot of this can occur with sexual disintegration. So I know I've been in situations myself. This is why I learned not to really deal with no-limit soldiers. Because I like to limit the amount of women that I'm sleeping with at a particular time. I don't like to sleep with more than 3 women at a time. I like to have 2 women that are consistent. Maybe 1 woman who is, floater. And then sometimes that feminine dominant woman, sometimes a masculine dominant man will prematurely not have a full rotation of women. So if his sexual desire starts going up and she's, flaking, or she's not being consistent, but because that's one of the few women that he's dealing with at the time, then he may start employing certain aspects of manipulating her to mirror the trigger of trying to be inconsistent. So he may manipulate her emotionally so that she'll come back around and fuck with him. And that only works but so many times before a woman flips the narrative on it. You have to deal with a woman who's feminine and submissive, because a woman can be feminine and dominant and be very sexual with you, but she may not like that you're pushing her into her submissive energy, because she may not want to be submissive with a man. She may not want to be submissive with you. So the idea of losing control is something that makes a woman feel uncomfortable. So when she's feminine and dominant, she can have a certain level of control because of the dominance, right? So she can deal with a man who's masculine and submissive. That's a gentleman. That's a trick. That's a simp, right? Or that's a trick. It's a dude who's paying her money, trying to love her, trying to do a bunch of things like that, right? But then there's going to be other men who are just feminine dominants, right? Who she'll say, well, because he's feminine, I can't trust his leadership. So she'll just treat that as just a fuck buddy, or just, every once in a while get her rocks off when she wants to feel that submissive energy. Like when she wants to be submissive herself. But that's not going to be something she's going to want to do necessarily consistently. And if she gets into it too consistently, then she is going to start to become feminine and submissive. So what she'll do is she'll try to use different tactics to get a man out of his masculine energy and into his feminine energy while he still has that dominant energy. And by doing that, then she'll disregard his leadership because of the feminine dominance. So that's the manipulation, right? That's the controlling tendencies. That's those different things that may happen. And when that type of thing happens, that situation go left real bad. I mean, it's gone left for me before. So I understand how that works. And that's why I just try to only deal with women who have a feminine and submissive perspective towards me. Sometimes a feminine dominant will be attracted to a masculine dominant because she feels like that is an opportunity to test her dominance, right? That's where a woman sees you as a sexual challenge, and because she sees you as a sexual challenge, that piques her interest. Now, feminine dominance likes a challenge, while femininity is attracted to strength. So feminine dominance likes a challenge, but they don't like to lose that challenge for so much before they need to walk away. And if they win the challenge, then they'll see you as submissive. So they'll see you as masculine and submissive, and then they'll put you into their roster, into their program, right? And if you get feminine about it, then you're feminine and submissive, then they won't be satisfied with you, but they may use you, they may take advantage of you. And if you're masculine submissive, then they'll give you what's equivalent to what they feel is the value that you add to their life. But a feminine submissive is attracted to strength and the clear instructions and the clear direction that you give her. So she'll go along with what you say. She'll get with your program. Instead of it being a matter of her desiring a challenge so that she can challenge herself, she's desiring a challenge for the purpose of growth. See, feminine submissive is a role to where you want to grow through the leadership that you're receiving. It's good dick and guidance, right? Guidance comes with the masculinity. Good dick comes with the dominance. So this is just my take on it. I might could touch on it some more later, but this is just my point of view on it. It's masculine dominance with feminine dominance. Masculine dominance with feminine dominance. And it's just a blurred pill rant. And I could touch on the side of a feminine dominant with a masculine dominant woman. And that's something that can occur. Now, oftentimes, a man is going to have a higher capacity for dominance than a woman has because of our testosterone, because of our body builds. So sometimes when a man takes a feminine dominant position with a woman who's masculine and dominant, he is going to try to manipulate her so that he can get her into a place where she becomes feminine and submissive, or try to get her to a place where she will think that he's being masculine and submissive, or think that he's being feminine and submissive towards what it is that she desires, right? So that means she may try to take the friends first role, right? That's what a masculine dominant woman may do, because she wants to work up to that point. But if he's able to adequately arouse that woman, that arousal will push her into more of a feminine space. And if he can dominate her, then she will be feminine and submissive against her will. But when she's feminine and submissive against her will, or against her better judgment, then she will take that opportunity to feel like that is not aligned with who she wants to be and how she sees herself, and it can create a gentleman gigolo complex, because the gigolo is typically the feminine dominant and the gentleman is the masculine submissive. So that can often lead towards abusive relationships, or toxic relationships, and ones where there's good sex, because when two dominant people to get together, it's like a challenge. So sometimes a feminine dominant man will deal with a masculine dominant woman, and then he'll realize, oh, she's not letting me play these games. She's not letting me do this. So sometimes a man will see that, and then that's like a gigolo or a player, and then he'll meet a woman who sets standards and boundaries, and then he'll become feminine and submissive towards her program, and then see that as a route of growth. But oftentimes a woman can't truly take that masculine dominant role in a relationship, because her innate level of femininity and her desire for strength and her attraction to strength is going to be something that causes her to become duplicitous if she's dealing with the man who she doesn't feel is masculine or dominant. So this is just masculine dominant with feminine dominant. It's Brodie, I'm out.